So this message might ruffle some feathers, and I'm actually hoping that it has that effect. Before I jump in, if you all agree with this one statement that I'm getting ready to make, leave an 1111 in the chat. That way I know that we're on the same page, at least when it comes to this particular thing right here. Nature is one of our greatest teachers. If you was not able to learn from man, nature actually will teach you far more than man could ever teach you if you pay attention. One thing that you know about nature is that if you have a seed, let's just say you want to plant an apple tree. So you have an apple seed. If you do not nurture that seed, if you do not water that seed, if you do not make sure it gets the right sunlight, if you do not ensure that it is nurtured and taken care of, the likelihood that that seed will grow into an apple tree and bear fruit that is actually beneficial to you and your family is slim to none. So considering an apple tree could take years to grow, right? And so therefore it will require years of nurturing that tree. Now, if you agree with that, leave an 1111 in the chat. Let's fast forward, because a lot of people are having a difficult time manifesting. And I do a lot of readings for people, a lot of personal readings for people. And I'm noticing a pattern, especially when it comes to the men specifically. But this is also relevant to women. So please don't think that this is only relevant to men, because this can go both ways. When you have offspring, that is literally your seed. For the man, you all literally call your sperm your seed. So when you have a child, a lot of you reference your children. That's my seed right there, right? For women, that is your seed, right? So when you have offspring, you have an obligation to ensure that they are nurtured, cared for, so that they can grow. And when they grow, you do expect that it will bear fruit. That could be beneficial potentially to you, but also to the future generations that will come from that seed, that child. A lot of people are having a very difficult time manifesting because they do not contribute to the livelihood of their own seed. I'm going to say that one more again. Some of y'all already clicked off. A lot of people are having a hard time manifesting because they do not contribute to the livelihood of their own seed. Now, do I understand that there are multiple circumstances that can interfere with that? Absolutely. But consider there's always a way when you think there's no way. For instance, a man might say, well, you know what? That mother keeps me away from my child. She doesn't let me see my child, so I can't do anything for them. Okay. So in order to ensure that your inheritance does not get disrupted, set aside an account for that child, so that for every dollar that you would have naturally given or contributed to that child's livelihood is readily available to them when they are old enough to connect with you on their own. That way, whatever you're calling in, whatever inheritance you are expecting to receive, whatever you are nurturing and creative pursuits that you are visualizing and hoping to manifest is not interrupted, because you are still planting seeds towards your seed, the one that's here in the 3D. A lot of times people expect to plant a spiritual seed and they expect to see 3D tangible evidence of that thing, but they are not contributing to the very thing that's already here, the very seed that came from their loins that's already here. This goes for both men and women, because there are single fathers out here who are solely taking care of their children without any assistance from the mothers. It's rare, but it does happen. But I'm noticing a pattern, y'all. And I have to speak out about this openly because most spiritual guides, spiritual teachers, whatever you want to call us, right, will not touch this type of subject because, unfortunately, there's a lot of people out here who have completely written off the fact that taking care of their offspring is a necessary component to receiving your inheritance. You can't expect to receive an inheritance when the very gift that you already had that came through your loins is not even receiving the bare minimum from you with what you already have. You inherit things in order to pass it down. So what makes a person believe that they're going to receive this overflow of wealth in their life when they're not willing to give the bare minimum with what they already have? A spiritually awakened woman, a spiritually awakened man should never be in a position where they are purposely and intentionally and willingly not contributing to their children's lives. If you are in a tough space and finances are not looking good because you're having a rough patch when it comes to getting a job, then if your child, I'm saying if you're a man, let's just say if you're a man specifically, and your children stay with their mother or your child or children, whatever you have, then that mother, there's certain things that she shouldn't have to worry about. You should be lifting a load off of her in a sense. Let's just say if you have a son, you should be cutting his hair. Get you a pair of clippers. She shouldn't have to pay nobody to cut his hair. If you can't afford to get him shoes, you should be getting you some dye or something. You should be refurbishing his shoes. Okay? If she shouldn't have to pay to wash his clothes. If you can afford to do that, then spend $15. Get his clothes washed. You should be doing something to pour into your seed. Because I'm going to tell you all, quite naturally, if that other parent that is doing everything for that child is spiritually awakened, they not only will receive their inheritance, but they will also receive your portion for those of you who are intentionally not contributing or making excuses as to why you can't do anything. Some people out here like, I can't do nothing. Yes, you can. Don't expect for the universe to pour into you and the seeds that you visualize if you are not pouring into the seeds that you have already created. That's universal law. As above, so below. You are the microcosmic beings, and then you have the macrocosm, microcosm, macrocosm. There are certain things that universally you watch unfold and happen in nature. If we go back to what I mentioned previously, and when you recognize that nature requires a certain level of nurturing or nourishment in order for growth to happen and in order for it to yield fruit that is highly beneficial to multiple people, it's going to yield fruit that also has many seeds. And those seeds will go on to be used to plant more apple trees, no different than your offspring. You nurture the seed that comes from your loins, and that seed will grow up to produce their own seeds, which ultimately contributes to the bloodline. You can't completely discount it and ignore and turn a blind eye to such a massive responsibility and throw your hands up and say, well, we ain't together no more. They chose not to be with me. They chose to move on. What? What the hell that got to do with you nurturing the seed that came from your loins? You have to. You have to. But guess what? Free will exists. So for those who say, well, I'm choosing not to be in their life. I've made a decision not to be in my child's life because of XYZ circumstance that happened in the past, XYZ. Free will exists. But just note that in the midst of choosing, you are also choosing for the universe to not pour into the seeds that you visualize and plant. You are choosing to not gain access to your inheritance, which ultimately is supposed to be passed down to your offspring. Or some portion of it is supposed to be contributed to your offspring. Why do you think it's an inheritance? So I recognize that this subject is not spoken about. I haven't heard anybody talk about it yet in the spiritual community. But one thing that I know is that when the Most High places something on my heart, I have to speak about it openly. And I recognize that it will offend some people, because there are some people who just don't want to believe that these things are interconnected. They want to believe that it's totally separate and that they can make a choice to blatantly not do for their seed, but expect that the things that they want to manifest will come into fruition. That's not how this goes. You must find a way to contribute to your offspring's well-being. You must find a way. And like I said, if it's to the degree where that particular parent is like completely pushing back, if you've already exhausted all possibilities now, I'm not talking about those people that was just like, oh, okay, well, they said I can't see them, and then that was it. There was no there was no fight back. There was nothing there for your child. I'm talking about if you've already exhausted all possibilities to be in that child's life and to do for that child, then you should be setting up accounts for your child or children. And that money should be untouched, but readily available to them, because you are constantly sowing a seed in that direction. Be very, very mindful of these things, y'all. Many of you out there don't have this issue, but there will be a small selection, a small selection of you that do. And I'm telling you from what I know, this is not something that I am assuming. This is what I know to be true. Your inheritance will not be claimed by you in this lifetime until you sow into the seed that is already in the 3D. I don't think I need to say anything else. Leave an 1111 in the chat if you're still here with me at the end, and let me know that you understand. Some of you won't. For those of you that don't, it's not meant for you to get it. But there's going to be a lot of things that you don't get as a result of ignoring the very answer that you've probably been waiting for. That's my message for you all. Like, subscribe, leave a comment below. I'll talk to y'all next time.